Oh boy, a lot to unpack here, a lot. And it's going to be pretty crazy because I'll tell you, I've had some rumblings in my gut for years, but I can never really explain or articulate what was in my gut as far as the indicators, the warnings, the feelings. When you have a weird feeling about something and you feel icky about something, oh yeah, it's something that's telling you your gut, which is houses all of your information, is letting you know something is not right here. And I knew many things were not right in this world. But since it's everywhere, how do you pinpoint it? How do you cordon it off and put it in its own little category? You can't, because it's all around you. That was the hardest thing to figure out, was that all the danger was everywhere. It was in your family, your friends, your associations, your politics, your religion, your science dogmas. I couldn't figure out how I would isolate the issue, the problem, without feeling like I was discriminating or, pointing out a specific group or types of people, because you know how that will go over. It doesn't go over very well. So then you have to realize, what is it about people that makes you feel icky? And then I realized, oh shit. Okay, so in my book, hold on. I do mention very briefly Ted Kaczynski and Charles Manson, okay? Because, why? Because they were MK Ultra. They were fucked with by the system, by scientists, and I've had a little bit of an issue with that, and I've experienced some type of that on some level. Probably not to the extreme that Kaczynski and Manson have been fucked with, but I have been fucked with. And so I kind of understood where they were coming from, okay? Not that I would ever repeat what they did, because they took it way far. Why? Because they didn't have an outlet. So I don't know. They didn't release the demons. I released a lot of demons. Not to say I would do anything like that. I don't think I ever would contemplate doing that, but I understood where they were coming from and why they went to that degree. I don't agree with anyone going to that degree, but I understand why they did, because of how much they were fucked with and told stuff, and then tried to help the world, and they couldn't get it out. They couldn't even get through to people because of all the shit that they were dealing with. And so then they did some pretty horrific shit. Okay? And so I figured out that all the danger are from the people who have been, let me see, hold on a second. Understood where they're coming from and why they went to that degree. I don't agree. Okay. All right. Okay, awesome. Okay, Jane. All right. So, all right. Let me just go back here. So anyway, so why do they go to that degree, or why, shit, I just got really fucking distracted. That's okay. I should not get distracted, but I do. But why? Okay, so what is it about the people out there, and why do they go to such a, well, fuck. All right, let me start over again. And so, so why are all these people doing some crazy shit? Because they were influenced by the 1960s, okay? And you see everywhere, the hippie mamas, the hippie daddies, you see all the different cult leaders out there. It's all in the family. The Manson family was showing you how a family can be like a cult. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to say this in such a way, because there's so much that I figured out. And I have a background in this because, my parents were the silent generation. They've been through, they were raised through the World War II and all that stuff at the tail end or even during. Okay, and then all the 1960s and 70s and the 50s and the 40s type of thing. So it's like I have an exposure to that. Then plus I met my grandmother, who was then born in the 1930s, 20s or something, 1900. I couldn't even tell you when they were born. All right, so I can span the whole fucking last 100 years when you think about it. Which means that then I see what the family has done to people, what families have done to people. And then where did that come from? It came from the Manson family. But then we have to figure out how our society has been constructed as far as separating people out. Hippie chicks, square chicks, and sex bombs. All right. And so then you figure out with history, why does it always repeat? Remember, they've been showing us all the different movies about World War II. And I've had World War II stuff shoved down my throat. And not to say it wasn't like it needed to happen, I'm sure. But wow, so when the conspiracy world is focusing on World War II and saying, "Hey, that's going to repeat," no, it's not. Then you're not looking at what the system is going to be doing. They're going to be doing some different stuff to control the population. Okay, yeah, war is going to be out there. We're going to have people voluntarily going to the military. People are going to voluntarily be an activist and then go march and then be involved in something that was crazy, like what happened in 2020 and all that. All right, so let me just read this and go through it because there's a lot to go through. I mean, I want to say it all in one breath, but I have to go through it systematically so you get it. So I say, throw away your diffusers now, laugh out loud or else suffer. Food, environmental allergies now or later. And essential oils does equals chemotherapy. Okay, and so that's when Jane was saying that she threw it away because that essential oils, all the different, when you think about it, all the different herbs and extracts and everything that people use to remedy away symptoms, the painkillers, everything the medical holistic system goes against your body. And the issue is that we have the hippie mothers, the crunchy mamas, who act like them, like I said, act like Charles Manson followers because they have beauty. What is it? They have the sex bomb, the squareness, because they have some information from the medical system and the holistic system. So they're hippie chicks and they're sex bombs. So they're also gorgeous. That's why I'm saying be very careful of gorgeous, hippie, square, sex bomb chicks that are selling you a pill, a powder supplement, a detox, even an activist stance. Because you could be pulled down and never come up again. And that's what's going on right now with all these hippie chicks that are pulling people into the remedies world. They're not going to survive the remedies, not in this environment. They are not. And that's what's kind of dangerous right now is we have beautiful people who are selling people death. And people are buying death left and right. And that's the danger. And so history always repeats. But what time in history is being repeated? Some of you don't even know the last 50 years. Squares, hippie chicks, and the sex bombs. When you get all three in one person, watch out. They're even more deadly. When they use their powers incorrectly. And that's the thing with the squares in the 1980s that were once the hippie chicks and the sex bombs, and they turned into a square. They became part of the infrastructure, the system that's rolling out what's going on right now. And that's what makes women deadly. It's because they go through those processes. They know how to use all their different powers that were taught to them. And then people can't resist them. And then they get sucked under the water like the sea nymphs doing to the sailors. And so that's what kind of happened in the 1960s. They turned all those little hippies into part of Wall Street, part of the science, the academics, and teachers. And then, wow, they are a force. They are a force. All right? So squares, hippie chicks, and sex bombs, when you get all three together in one person, they are even more deadly when they use their powers incorrectly. Ironic that hippie chicks, square, sex bombs in the 1960s left their small towns to go to a big city. And then I, of course, was programmed to be a square, a hippie chick, and a sex bomb, and I left California and came to a little small town called Ohio, Canton, Ohio, okay? So that's kind of coming full circle. And so, yeah, it is coming full circle 50 years later. And so when the system develops so many different cult leaders who may be deadly in their actions, resisting everything, surveillance society is needed. Yeah, the 15-minute cities. Because the system knew what they developed. They developed the hippie chicks, square, sex bombs who are also cult leaders who will also do deadly shit to not only their children, but also sell it to their friends and family. And then once they realize shit's going on, they're going to go and try to be like another Charles Manson and develop a crazy ass war, a major activism. Like, oh my God, we got to save the people. And then you're seeing people even being more radicalized out there in the chemtrails world. Just watch the chemtrails world. People are being radicalized and the system is watching them because they're all over Facebook. You see people going like, oh yeah, power to the people. They're acting like 1960s again. And you're seeing people who are just like, who are like so afraid of these chemtrails. They don't even realize that they have to feed the energy and release the demons. But since they don't want to do that, they don't want to even listen to my information. They're going to go and radicalize people and sell them Faraday cages and sell them all the different remedies and then try to activate them. The system is watching that. The system was watching January 6th and all the different right-wing people going to go and accost the Capitol. They're watching everybody. They're watching me too, okay? But I'm not trying to radicalize anyone. I'm trying to get you guys to intellectually learn how to change the fucking system. Not force it, not force change it, not, do the shit that we did back then in the 1960s and 70s. But now use your fucking mind. Learn how to use your fucking mind and learn the law, and learn science, and learn how to develop an argument. An intelligent, intellectual argument. Okay? And so the system is seeing what people are doing, especially in the chemtrails world. And we'll see what happens, how these chemtrail activists are going to radicalize people. And I'm staying far away from that. I'm not part of that bullshit. I'm trying to give people a way out, and they have to do it themselves. Nobody can force them to do it. And if they can't, then they have to ask the system to help them do it and help change the medical system. So it doesn't become a death system. It becomes actually a death system if you choose, and also a life system if you choose. Okay? But people are not looking at that. That's why I get so annoyed with some of my J people crowd, because they have not fucking figured it out. They're still the hippie fucking chicks selling everybody a fucking remedy. That's what makes me mad. But what can you do? And so anyways, beauty used as a weapon. Even the system knew lonely people would eventually get absolution through the other side. Rest in peace. Drinking from the silver cup means drinking antibiotics, and riding the highway in the sky, going to the proverbial heaven. This is for all the lonely people. That's the song from America, the band. And so I'm saying the answer is not out there. The answer is not somebody else just entertaining you until you fucking die. I guess if you think there's no other choice. But you have the power to release those demons and feed yourself. There's plenty of food out there. If you're so afraid of food because you've been radicalized against the food because you're afraid of GMO and lab-created meat, then you will starve. And that's what the system anticipates and banks on. So that's how they can release people without going back to World War II again. Now it's by your own choice. And mothers and fathers destroying their own children. Just watch on your Facebook. Look at all the mothers who are so proud that they're taking their children to the homeopathic, the allopathic, the naturopathic. And they're giving them all the elderberry syrup and the apple cider vinegar and the honey and all the different remedies. And now you're seeing, this is not World War II. This is at the hands of the parents, the cult leaders, who can't be told anything different because they're the fucking parent. They're the God. They're the almighty mother, all right? The Gaia woman, whatever you want to call it. And you can't tell them anything because their children are their property. Their children are their social capital. Their children are to be exploited for their personal gain. That's what I see is wrong with the parents now, who are now emulating Charles Manson and his followers. The grandmothers too. They're not making any kind of changes. And they're not saying anything on Facebook except, oh, watch out for this. Watch out for that. The chemtrails are so horrible. Okay. You can't stop it. The machine is already gone. The machine's already running. You can't do anything to stop it. All you could do is feed the energy, release the fucking demons. And then maybe stay home and stay safe, because it is pretty crazy out there. And so I'm going to say, all you oozy love people, it's uncomfortable to watch. You are showing you have been traumatized to such an extent, severely traumatized. So there's a lot of people on my Facebook, okay, that are all about love. Like literally love all over the fucking place. And I've had it way back in the early time in the J world. And I'd be like, dude, just stop laying the love on. Just release that shit, because it's really uncomfortable. And the reason why in my gut I knew is because I knew it somehow had to do with something that was deadly. And then I realized, yes, the 1960s, the Summer of Love, was all about the love, and it was destruction, because it turned into something like a Susan Atkins and stabbing Sharon Tate for the love of the Christ-like dude called Charles Manson. And so when you realize the religious folk and the hippie folk, the drugs, the different, like the cannabis and the LSD and the ayahuasca. So you think about religion and hippie people were all actually two sides of the same coin. And so that's why it's ironic. I see people who are all spiritual in the energy healing world who are against the Christians, but they were actually two sides of the same coin back in the 1960s. The religious revival was all about the music and, power to the people against the government. And so you saw both of those entities, and now are kind of separate, but not really. Those entities were actually one and the same in the 1960s. Then you had all the cult leaders, the Jim Jones. You had like the people's whatever, I mean, if you go watch some Netflix and watch all the different documentaries and all the different cult leaders, the swamis, doing all the yogi sex shit, the tantric sex, okay? I mean, all of that was prevalent. And now today we're watching all over Facebook. You see all the different yogis playing sex stuff with people, and you're seeing all the different people in the activist stuff. And even the mainstream squares are like, oh gosh, everyone has to be pro-vax. And like, as if that was going to save them, because they still have to release demons. They still have to build their bodies up. So whether you get a vax or you get an ivermectin or whatever, you're still in deficit, regardless if you do or do not do whatever people are recommending. And so I'm going to say, all of you oozy love people, it's uncomfortable to watch. You are showing you have been traumatized to such an extent, severely traumatized. Not only are you leading with your wounds, but you're wearing your emotions on your sleeve. And now that love and trauma has been weaponized against anyone in your crosshairs. You will love everything to death. And that's why people have so many animals, so many children, so many friends, so many family, because that's how they're going to use their love to go and bring to life, but also destroy when the time is right. And when you are activated to do that. And so this environment is activating people's immune systems, and this is what it's triggering people to go and take more herbs, more extracts, more remedies, more surgeries, and then it is the depopulation agenda at the hands of the parents, the cult leaders. And so why did my gut tell me it's dangerous for people to fall in love with you the way they do, or say they love you? Now, I understand my husband and I, we have a shared love because we're monogamous and we're in a business contract, but that was built over 10 years, okay? Strangers say they love you and they don't hardly even know you. Maybe they've been around for 7 years, but they shouldn't love you. They can respect you. But the thing with the love is when you're tractor beaming people in, because we were so desperate for connection, so desperate for some kind of distraction from their life. And so when they envelop you with oozy, sticky love, because people kill for people who are in love with them, okay? People destroy people through love. Love means oncology. This is where it's destructive. This is where the hippie moms, the squares, and the sex bombs who are beholden to the government, they will destroy people for love. So love means oncology. Love means getting aggressive surgeries or non-aggressive surgeries. Love means using aggressive anti-life protocols against our child's immunity. That's all the holistic and medical remedies. That's love to the parents. And so I say, save the children, save the animals. As far as surgery, I wouldn't cut someone when they're awake. I certainly would not cut anyone when they're asleep. That's what love in this world is. It's destructive. Save the children, save the adult children, save the animals. Save men from the pretty women selling them a dream. Save the women from the aggressive men selling them limitations. Maybe it's time not to embrace hippie chicks or squares or even the sex bombs. Maybe it's time not to become a Manson cult leader. Maybe don't assume beauty is intelligent or intellectual. Sometimes people use their beauty as a weapon. Remember the Manson family? The women were beautiful and they sold death. Maybe it's time to save yourself. And so I read an article that someone wrote back in 2018 and their perspective on the whole Manson clan and the women that killed for love. And so, yeah, in my gut, I don't know where I got in my gut, how I even linked it to the Manson stuff, but I think it's because we have a shared suffering from scientists fucking with us. But Manson and Kaczynski definitely had it to a much more degree than I've had it. And so that's probably why I shared some kind of suffering with them, because I understand when scientists fuck with you and you know it was intentional, fuck. That makes you pissed off, it makes you mad, but not enough to hurt people like Kaczynski and Manson, but enough to now bring awareness and give people the option. Not force convert them and say that they have to face their fucking demons and they have to believe that they've been used as experiments, but to give people the option that if they see that, if they have the ability to see that, then they can make a different choice. Okay? So now you see why I get uncomfortable when strangers say they love me. When all the empaths make me feel very uncomfortable. I can feel their desperate love channeled through Charles Manson. The desperation for love and connection, to be heard and belong. That's why people are desperate to have families, their own cult following, and someone to break apart the loneliness. That's why people are so desperate for friends. They can't be by themselves. Do they even like themselves? When you are around people constantly, do you ever pay attention to yourself? Oh, you never pay attention. Okay. When you're around people constantly, you never have to pay attention to yourself. The irony is when you have so many demons, you are the loneliest. And that's why people commit suicide, because they have so many demons and they're so lonely and they can't release them, right? But when you release the demons, you are well entertained by your own intellect. That's the irony about loneliness. Once you release all the things that are torturing you, then you can be on your own. But when people have so many demons, then they have to surround themselves by people who act like the demons in their body, because they're so lonely. They can't handle their own demons, so they need other demons around them to go banter with. That's why all the friends, the family, and all the associations and the need to be around people. And like, oh, look, I'm with my friends. See, everything's better with friends. Yeah, when you can't be by yourself, when you don't like yourself, when you have to surround yourself by children, surround yourself by daughters and sons and everyone around you because you can't be by yourself. That's the destruction of societies, and people cannot look at their own foibles, and they're always getting distracted. And so this article that I read represents the weaponization of parents over their children to the point of death. The mothers and the fathers loving their children and animals to death. When love is all you need, people are willing to destroy their own family and friends through love. That's the moral of the Manson story. His followers have been reincarnated into the hippie world, the hippie mainstream crunchy mother world. That's why it's dangerous for children. When people realize what they've done to their friends and family, mic drop. It's never too late to change, but it's not about love, mothers and fathers. It's about respect. Respect for life, respect yourself. And so that article, All You Need, The Summer of Love and the Manson Family Murders by Claire Dodd. I'm not going to read the whole article, but here's the first paragraph. The summer of love makes me queasy. I'm stuck on the swastika Ed Manson girl singing psalms on the LA courthouse steps while the press, the pigs, and mainstream America everywhere sighs in ecstatic horror at these small town girls on the TV news. How it stuns and knots my errant heart. Okay? And so you'll read that article. I have the link there. But let me tell you, she has some great prose, great words. And yeah, it's interesting how the small town girls were radicalized by the big city men and women, and they turned into murderers. Okay? Turned into destroyers. And now we have radicalized mothers to destroy their children and destroy their family through the medical holistic energy healing world. That's why you got to watch your Facebook now when you realize this. Watch everyone promote that. And you can't say anything. You can't convert them. You cannot force convert them. And so I just bring it to awareness, but I can't do shit for anyone. Okay? So just to be clear, I'm not religious. I just know how religion has been used against people. And the funny thing is, it is impossible to not be religious and embrace family. So if you have a family, you got to be religious on some level. Whether it's spiritual, whether it's a Christian, a Catholic, Jehovah's Witness, same thing. Muslim, Jewish. For you to have a family, you have to be religious on some level. Because all the religions out there have the holistic side of it. So all the spiritual guru hippie chicks. And then you have the mainstream, the hospital system, the pediatricians. And so there's got to be, so there's a little bit of Christianity, a little bit of Catholicism, a little bit of Judaism, a little bit of Muslimism or whatever, a little bit of all these type of religions, because that all supports the hospital system and the holistic system. So, yeah. And so the funny thing is, it is impossible to not be religious and embrace family. See, you need to believe in cults to have a family and religion, because it's the dying and reproducing and the blind following. The blind following is what is required. Okay? And so since the mother is the all-knowing God and the father is too on some level, that's already then exemplifying a cult mentality. Because a mother cannot be told anything. She can't. Nobody can question the mother. Nobody can. Except for the system. But the system is going to let her destroy her children, because that's the depopulation agenda. It's the Manson, microbial Manson family. And that's in every single family out there who can't handle suffering, who can't handle, change, who can't handle viruses. And you see what the mothers do, and you see what the fathers do. It's like clockwork. That's kind of why we're in a shitty situation, a no-win situation. When most people are cult leaders with their family and friends, blind followers over the cliff to death. That's what the cults are today. which is why I am mostly alone, because every single family that I've sort of tried to join, yeah, nope, I'm not one of them. I'm not a follower, and I don't fall in line like they expect. And so, my husband had to make a choice. I don't say my husband can't see his family. Of course he can see his family. I don't care. I don't have to be there. But my husband can see his family. But, when you realize what family has done to people, destroyed members, whether it's intentionally and they they are intentionally doing it, or they're surreptitiously then using the medical holistic system on you, yeah, that's when you realize that you can't be around your family anymore, because they will destroy you with their traditions, with their cult following. And so that's what I'm saying. Families are very dangerous to the members and also to society. But remember, it's accepted because we're in a depopulation agenda. You won't be allowed to use everything against your kid's immune system, so as long as it's FDA approved. And so people are destroying their families to death with the medical and the holistic system. And so this is why I'm mostly done. I have no group, and I want no one loving me or hating me or worshiping me. I will question everyone. I do not discriminate. And you won't like me because I'm even questioning your tradition and culture. Again, people hate me with love and they love me with hate. That's the Manson way. All the empathic love, women and men. And you see them all over Facebook because they're all into sex. They're all about tantric shit. They're all about, it's all about love. Everything's about love. It's all over. It's like, you see it. That's why I'm like, oh my God. I realized to what extent how much I was outnumbered. And so that's when I'm like, you know what? No one's next to me. I'm not working with anybody. And I'll let you guys figure it out, because it's everywhere. The Manson cult mentality is everywhere. It's in the Asian religion. It's in all the or Asian culture. It's in all the cultures out there. Every single one of them, especially when they come to America. Okay? So that's why there's no one next to me, because I'm not playing that fucking game. And I'm not going to fall in line. And so once the black population wakes up, they will be a force like the Black Panthers in the 1960s. Save your culture, black culture, refeeding clinics. No oncology or cannabis. That was programmed into you a long time ago. All the ganja stuff, that was the destruction of the black culture. If you guys can save yourself, the white population has a chance as well as the Asians, Hispanics, and everyone else. And so this is where I'm going into how the black culture has been targeted as far as through oncology because of Henrietta Lacks. Who is Henrietta Lacks? She had the cervical cancer cells that Johns Hopkins University, that people back in the 1950s went and took from her. They stole her cells, didn't ask permission from the family or her, and they used it in experiments for oncology, for testing poisons and therapies on those cells. What are poisons? Chemotherapy, radiation. And so they figure out what's with the very strong, because the black people are very strong. And so are some white people, but black people are very strong. And so when you test poisons on their cells, then you can figure out the right combination to where it destroys the cells but doesn't destroy the person. But you'll see a gradual decline, and it weakens that genetic line. And then you figure out then all the different races and the strengths in between the black and the white. That's why everything's all black versus white. I don't say it's a race war, but it's, well, yeah, the system has pitted the blacks and the whites against each other, especially in the 1960s. But the medical system, the medical holistic energy healing system, has already figured out how to take out the weak people and weaken people who are strong. And I'm seeing it right now in my community. People go into oncology. Strong people used to be strong, and then they get through oncology and they become weaker and weaker and weaker until they don't exist anymore. That's fucking horrific to watch. It's not only in the medical system and oncology, it's also in the holistic herbalist system too. The starving of the children, starving of the parents, the taking away the food. Now these kids' bones are breaking, and they're getting therapized to death by all the different, whether it's talk therapy or medical therapy or holistic therapy. The therapies are weakening everybody, and people don't fucking see it. And so I know the reality that most people who are in the prime place to fight the medical and the holistic system will never ever fight them. Will never ever question the doctors or the herbalists, because they have fought for all the different treatments, right? These people who are like, oh yeah, I want the ivermectin, I want this, I want that, I want cannabis, I want this. So when you have people who have fought for the painkillers, fought for all the different herbs and extracts, and then to say, well, now I got to go up against the holistic system and say, hey, I think what you're doing is horrible. And you've already done that to your children. Can parents turn around and be like, well, I've made a mistake. I followed the wrong people. I listened to the holistic system, who was no different than the medical system, and I fucked up. And now I want to go and fight you guys and say you guys are doing harm and you violated the Hippocratic Oath, I guess, if they're under that. But can you see these parents and grandparents ever admit they ever made a fucking mistake? I don't ever see it on my Facebook. I have not seen any holistic or allopathic parent ever admit they ever made a mistake on their Facebook and apologize, not only their children, but to also their community for what they've contributed to. I have yet to see, I probably will never see that, because again, you're all the cult leaders. Cult leaders are never fucking wrong. They never have to apologize. They never have to change, and they never have to do anything except be dead right, because it's better than being alive wrong. That's the depopulation agenda, is the radicalization of the cult leaders, the parents, against the family, their own children. And so because they, the parents, have fought for all the different treatments that are just as deadly, and when you have to face your family after all of what you have fought for and realize how much you have destroyed your children through all the remedies and surgeries, that's like a vampire getting their humanity back. Some don't survive the truth because it's too fucking painful. That's why I don't count on people going up against the medical or the holistic system. I don't count on cultures to save their own family and friends by doing something different. It would require people to think for themselves. It's better to be dead right, dead right, than alive wrong. Having to apologize to everybody on your Facebook and your children and family, I don't see mothers and fathers doing that at all whatsoever. I don't see them doing that. Because they were taught never to admit a mistake, never to apologize, and never to change, because they are the gurus, the cult leaders, the all-knowing mother and father. That's what Charles Manson left behind. That was his legacy. Literally, that was his legacy. And I'm watching it all over my Facebook. What happens when a person goes through oncology? Their head is shaved. Okay? So now you see, when you see the picture of the Manson girls who all went to the steps of wherever, and they shaved their head around the penalty phase, I guess, with all the swastikas on there. Yeah. Cancer patients look like that. They look like cult followers. Not that they are, but they have been inadvertently, surreptitiously brought into the cult of death called oncology. But you would never hear anyone say that, because remember, we're in a depopulation agenda. You're going to have to make a choice. You got to be savvier than the rest of the people. And when you have grandmothers who don't give a shit, won't even change really, and mothers who are too proud to say anything different, too afraid of what their friends and family might say, you will have, yes, a major fallout. So what happens when a person goes through oncology? Their head is shaved. Now you see, this is why I'm so vocal. It's devastating to experience, I'm sure, and it's even more devastating to watch. So imagine friends and family watching somebody get deteriorated by the medical and the holistic system. It's fucked up. In this environment, during this aggressive global warming, climate change, oncology, people's hair are falling out and going gray. And I know my hair is thinner. Oh yeah. In this environment, I might even actually go bald and look like a Manson cult follower. Okay? And so why is it black versus white when there's Asian and Hispanic and Middle Eastern? Why did Mr. Manson assume it's a race war? Because it was. The system pit the races against each other, so they both are distracted and both getting destroyed by the medical and holistic system. And you have fallen for it. Look at all the people who are black African Americans selling their friends cannabis, selling their friends pills and powders and supplements and detoxes and herbs and extracts to put in all the orifices. They're not at all realizing what they have to do. No, they're selling their friends everything under the sun. Okay? And so because black people and Africans are very strong, and skinny white or Asian people are not as strong. So all the different strengths in between black and white, you'll see how easy it is to take out someone who is weaker and weaken strong people. Which it doesn't surprise me that someone I know from back in high school who was also Japanese get taken down by oncology in less than 6 months. Okay, the system perfected their direct energy weapons through the love of family and friends. That's the Manson cult mentality. I knew Charles Manson had something to do with all of this. I just didn't know how he was involved with this today. But he is very significant today. And he's not even alive. But all of his followers are alive. They are wearing the outfits. See, that's the thing about wearing the outfits. You can tell all the holistic energy gurus because they wear that kind of clothing. Maybe they wear their hair in dreads. People are like, oh, that's so discriminatory, so racist, right? No, that's a costume that you're telling other people that you're in the cannabis world, you're in the holistic healing world, you're in the organic world, you're in the energy healing world. That's a call sign, okay? The way you wear your hair, the outfits that you wear, the type of breathy, love type of speech. When you're talking to someone, you can feel the ooze, you can feel you can feel it. You know they've been under so many different types of drugs, the love drugs, oxytocin. Of course, they're all about sex as well. And with all the sex, all about family. And then you see it's the Manson cult family all over again. I've met mothers who are completely like not even aware. And they're square. But they still have that Manson breathy type of speech pattern. And they sound like they're just not all there. They sound like they're under some kind of mind control. Oh, I've met people like that. It's a trip. And they are making billions of dollars. Okay, but it's all that mind control shit. And so his followers are alive and they are wearing the outfits. And I've told you, I even questioned one of my followers on my Facebook. She got pissed off and just read me the riot act, said I was racist, that I shouldn't be even saying that, because she didn't want her lifestyle questioned. She didn't want the way she wore her hair questioned. And I realized, you cross anyone that is in that mentality, they won't hurt you like physically. Oh, but you will feel the acid dripping from their mouth. Hold on. Okay. And so I knew Charles Manson had something to do with all of this. I just didn't know how he was involved with it today. But he's very significant today, and he's not even alive. But all of his followers are alive, and they are wearing the outfits. That's the Freemason way. You must understand the game being played and use the legal system appropriately and understand science. Okay? You can't force anyone to convert, and you can't force the system to change. The system already laid the groundwork, and now you have to figure out how are you going to strategize living in the system that is being given you today. And if you can't strategize, then you will be a Manson follower and destroy your family. Just like they wanted, but they still want to give you a choice. But you can't force the system to change. You can't force the system to stop what they're doing. You can't. It's already been done. The groundwork has been laid. There's no way you're going to stop the system from doing what it's doing. And so that's the Freemason way. You must understand the game being played and use the legal system appropriately and understand science. And be willing to question the cannabis world and question the herbal world. But if you can't question any of the remedies and herbs, then you will never take up for your own culture, and you will fail to save your own culture and family. The system banks on you never facing your demons or ever admitting you were ever wrong about anything. That's the strategy. If you don't fight for your life, the system knew what they were doing. And so if you want to save yourself and your friends and family, well, you won't save your friends and family, save yourself. You must learn how to play the game. Remember, they use the law and they understand science. Most people are not willing to understand the law or science. They just get triggered, they get programmed and triggered, and then it's game over when the system wants it to be game over. Okay, that's the world you live in, and your silence around this is the acceptance, is the approval. And so you really want to be an activist, you're going to have to question everything, and the strategy is in the law and science. The medical and the holistic system are violating the Hippocratic Oath. That's your fucking key to victory. If you can wrap your mind around the information. If your family is that important as you claim. We'll see. I dropped some major seeds. And so while many of you are very distracted by the anti-V or the pro-V, right, VACCINE, you fail to observe the elephant in the room. Yes, the therapies may activate the immune system and stimulate it, causing symptoms, but it's all the treatments. In the medical holistic energy healing world is the elephant in the room. That's what you fail to see. When someone gives you an argument and triggers you and activates you as an activist, they are distracting you from the major elephant in the room. Some of you are way too invested to ever fucking change. And they know this. Because how many of you on my Facebook will ever admit you ever were wrong about something? And say that maybe you shouldn't have done this. Maybe you shouldn't have followed this person and followed in using these aggressive herbs and extracts. But again, I'm gonna tell you, are you really giving your, I don't know. Anyways, some of you are waiting too vested to change. But that's how you see cultures get taken down, because they were given arguments and highly distracted and fighting amongst each other. And so now you know. And so then I Googled the stats of survivability of cancer, through the racial disparities with cancer and disease and surviving the treatments and surviving cancer. And so, yeah, the blacks are not going to come up at all in surviving them, because the system has perfected the oncology. And if they can weaken the black population, they will definitely even more weaken the white population, as well as the Asians, Hispanics, and everyone else. They already have all the genomes. The DNA has already been recorded. Every single DNA on this earth has been recorded, and even more so when someone comes in and we're like, oh God, I got COVID, and they go get a test for it, that's going right into the genome database. And so maybe the stats will tell you the truth. Look at the racial disparities of cancer and treatments and mortality rates. That will tell you everything. The system perfected what they needed to perfect. I'm sorry, it's not my fault. Wake up, people. I'm not the fucking enemy here. Population-based studies suggest that while survival rates for women with breast cancer have improved over the past 2 decades, survival rates in black women have lagged behind, and they observe disparity in increasing. 3 to 5 black males have the observed disparity is increasing. So black women are not going to be surviving breast cancer. But wow, how is white women? Because they've already perfected the oncology. And Henrietta Lacks, her immortal germline cells, were part of all of that discovery. Okay? So let me read this again. Population-based studies suggest that while survival rates for women with breast cancer have improved over the past 2 decades, survival rates in black women have lagged behind, and the observed disparity is increasing. 3 to 5 black males have significantly higher incident rate and are almost 1.5 times as likely to die from lung and bronchus cancer compared to white males. Similarly, black men and women have significantly higher cancer incidence rates and are almost 1.5 more likely to die of colorectal cancer compared to their white counterparts. All right? So remember, even when you're getting treated, you're still fighting cancer. You are still a cancer patient. So when they say treatments have certain types of outcomes between blacks and whites, the ultimate stats of mortality rates between blacks and whites with cancer tells you everything. Don't let the system think black people are disproportionately underserved with no access to treatment, and then the black people fight for treatment centers, which means they're fighting to die. Okay? And I was looking up the cancer treatment centers of America, and they're not around anymore. They went through some kind of lawsuit, and the outcomes they were promising were never really came out to be what they promised, and so they're not around. So Google what happened to the cancer treatment centers of America. They're gone. Okay? And then the black people fight for treatment centers, which means fighting to die, fighting for stronger oncology, a stronger poison. The system wants you to ask for your own destruction. It's all in the words. That's why I can't even believe the world I live in today, which is why I stay mostly alone. So many people are suffering, and they're destructive during their suffering. So this is what Henrietta Lacks. So you can read the articles about Henrietta Lacks and then the family getting a settlement for the system using her cells against or without her permission and profited off of it. And so the system used Henrietta Lacks' cancer cells, immortal germline cells, to see how they can destroy it through oncology. The system used her cells to figure out how to destroy life. Johns Hopkins should be shut down because of what they turned humans into. They turned humans against each other. The fact that she is African American makes it even worse. African Americans and Africans are extremely strong. They are a force to contend with. The system figured out how to weaken African Americans through oncology. If the different poisons work on her immortal germline cells, that was the barometer for all other cultures under oncology. She was used, and the people don't even realize how bad it is what her cells were used for. Once people wake up to that, oh my gosh, but right now people don't realize how bad it was using her cells for oncology. How many African Americans and interracial couple activists are willing to even touch this? Many are too worried about racial relations, but they don't even see the medical system is destroying them. That's the elephant in the fucking room, okay? Again, I can't really speak for the African Americans around this. It will take the African Americans to speak up for themselves around the medical system and the holistic system, and then getting off the drugs, getting off all the cannabis. Because if you're fighting the medical system, being under the influence of cannabis is not going to help your cause. Are people willing to do that? I don't know. Most likely not. The system might bank on that the culture of ganja and cannabis is been embedded and interweaved in the black culture. So and that will be their destruction. Because again, how can the system take anyone seriously when they're under the influence? And they're like, I'm fighting the medical system. Okay. For what? You have now a therapy called cannabis. And so then you have to take on the holistic system as well. The herbal remedies, everything. Is the black culture willing to do that? I hope you guys figure it out, because you have to save yourself and your children. You don't have to, but the system is destroying you. I'm not sure many of them are ready. Civil rights has taken up so much of their time, and many are still stuck in the herbal world. That's why I'm thinking they're not ready for this, to save their own culture. But this is really a pressing situation. This is another project to give away. I can't fight these battles, guys. I can only produce awareness. Replace all the cancer centers and the hospitals that give you oncology with refeeding clinics. What's a refeeding clinic? When you're told to get off the salt because it's too much, and get off the sugar and take away the meat and the milk, the cheese and the eggs, the fruits and vegetables, now the system owes you to help you get back on the food supply again, to then replace your cells that were damaged and repair them. That's what, let me tell you, if I was a black person and I finally faced all my demons, I would be doing this. I would be leading the whole, but I'm not. But some of these actors out there, they need to start redirecting, because you're not helping your race, you're not helping your family, you're not even helping your friends, and you're not even helping society. So again, I'm not in the medical system, so I can't develop that, because I'm not in a contractual agreement for anyone to bring me back to life, whatever life means. And so when you're paying your insurance premiums, when you're paying, your whatever you have to pay before you go get, surgeries or anything else, that says that you're in some kind of agreement for the procedures. But now, since you are a paying customer, you have the right to ask for change, to ask for another clinic that's going to help you get back onto life, not end up in the morgue someday, which is what happens every single time a person goes through oncology. They go through all the operations and they go through all the different protocols in the medical holistic system. They end up in the fucking morgue, and they're suffering on the way out the door. And so I have brought my own self back to life. But some of you need help from the doctors to bring you back to life, not take it away. This is your battle. Many of you are not strong enough to fight it, so you won't. It will take a strong patient to take up for themselves with the help of the doctor system. It probably won't happen for a while. What were Henrietta Lacks cancer cells used for? They have been used to test effects of radiation and poisons, to study the human genome, to learn more about how viruses work and play a crucial role in the development of the polio and the COVID-19 VACCINESs. So radiation and poisons, just all of the climate change that's going on, and radiation in oncology, and all the chemotherapy, and the poisons chemotherapy, and then of course all the different elements are floating around when we're going through this climate change. And then viruses are just algorithms that are stuck with proteins. And so, oh yeah, they used her cells to figure out how to make the direct energy weapons in oncology and all the protocols and therapies more streamlined and under the radar. Because how many black people go to the medical system? Many of them do. Even people on my Facebook, in the J world, I don't have anyone in the J world who is black, who has figured out how to release their demons. I have not found anyone. I don't understand it. Maybe it's too much. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I've had many people who have used the J juice, okay, but I have never seen them say, oh, now I get it. I see them kind of play with the information, but they don't really stick with it. That is telling. And so if I don't have anyone black in my J world really that understands my information, are they even going to be able to even take up for themselves against the system? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But it's not to say that it can't happen. Of course, anything can happen. We just haven't figured out I don't know. Maybe their own culture has destroyed. I don't know. And so what did the system do to the conspiracy world is what happened to Charles Manson. Apocalyptic scenarios. They told Manson what they were going to do, and then the system watched how Manson and his followers interacted with the world. Then the system recreated the same thing with what was done back in the 1960s and 70s and what we see today in the conspiracy world. Alex Jones, all the chemtrail activists, everyone that's like a conspiracy theorist, right? Now watch your Facebook. Watch all the male and female gurus selling you herbs, remedies, and drugs, and of course surgeries and fear. And of course, all the Faraday cages and the Organite, right? And all their therapies. History repeats. It is interesting. How am I different? Just look at all the likes on my Facebook. I don't hardly have any likes. People are too afraid to like my shit because they don't want to expose themselves. I get it. I understand. And so just look at all the likes on my Facebook. A few, but look at all the followers and groups and other Facebook posts on other people's pages. That's how I'm different, because I'm calling everyone out. I'm not calling just one person out, or I'm calling everybody out. All of you, when you think about it, all of you are cult leaders in your family, your friends, and everything. And so, yeah, I'm not getting any likes because there's nobody I'm taking up for and favoring. No, you take up for yourself. The people don't like themselves. They only like their friends, their family, and their children until they like them to death. The people do not like themselves, or they would take up for themselves. And I would get a lot more likes. But people don't like themselves. They only like their friends and family and children, and then they'd rather die. And okay, that's how I'm different. So to all the mothers out there who blame egg nut allergies on the VACCINESs, what do you think all the fruit and plant essential oils are doing to your children in the diffuser? What kind of chemicals do you think are in the essential oils, mothers? And it's not even being injected into you. You're breathing it in and using it on people's skin. What do you think of all the natural remedies that using against that child's skin is going to do in their immune system later? Wake up, crunchy mothers, hippie mothers. Your children are not doing any better than those who have been V'd. If you have to use ivermectin against any virus, then your children are not doing any better than the medical system when the kids have to go get a V. Okay, so that's the thing in the diet suddenly world, and all the crunchy mothers that are against the V's, they're taking freaking ivermectin and recommending it, and that's no different. That's worse, because that's an anti-parasitic, and then guess what? Those parasites are going to become even bigger and stronger in their body, because they have now emboldened and embrazened those colony-forming units that they're fighting against and making them stronger. But these crunchy mothers are all against the whatever. Don't fucking realize that. And neither do the men who take up like Charles Manson. There are men out there who are holistic people, who are anti-chemtrail, whatever, and they're acting like Charles Manson. Oh yeah, you're going to see a repeat in history. It's going to be, that's why we're under surveillance society, because now they want to watch all the different cult leaders come up and see who's going to destroy society. And who's going to be like, holy shit, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. But I have not yet to see anybody in the J world ever admit they've made a mistake to the world and apologized for what they have contributed to. And I understand, maybe it's just not, but I'll tell you, an apology and admitting your mistake on Facebook to all your friends and family, and you're not blocking people from it, certain people, that speaks fucking volumes. Because I've made mistakes. I've said, oh shit, maybe you don't need so much J juice. Maybe we don't need as much of the J juice. Maybe you need to feel your symptoms and release the demons the way I have it in my book. Maybe you need all the food supply. There's no sense in staying away from, this, and this, like I probably said way back in the early times. And I've apologized for being too too aggressive sometimes. I believe I've made my apologies to everybody all over fucking Facebook. I have evolved, and I admit where I've made mistakes. But again, I've yet to see anybody in the J world ever admit any fucking mistake they've ever, did. And that would actually change a lot in people's world when they realize that, oh God, this person who was pretty influential in my world, who was a guru, a cult leader, admit they made a mistake about essential oils, made a mistake about the remedies, the surgeries, all the pills, product supplements, all the overuse of the J juice. I have yet to see that. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be for a while before people, if at all. So, anyways. And so I was once a child, so I'm speaking for all children out there. Everyone in the veterinary, medical, holistic, surgery, energy healing world are all trauma victims. Every single one of you. I am speaking for all of you and your children and your animals. Somebody must speak for you because many of you are too traumatized to speak for yourself. Okay? And you're too afraid of how you're going to look to your friends and family and your occupation. Oh, I get it. Believe me, I do. And so people who are stuck in jail because of their occupation and their friends and family, well, yeah, that's your own jail that you've developed and that you sustained. And so I will say this. Many of you are channeling not only Charles Manson, but also his followers. I cannot even tell the difference between families today and the hippie people in the 1960s. I saw a picture. There were 3 people in the picture. One was a lady who was pregnant, and her hair was parted in the middle, and she looked kind of like a Charles Manson female follower. Then the people in the background, one looked like kind of like a square, short hair. Another one looked like another Charles Manson because his hair was longer. Another one had longer hair. And I'm like, and this is out of California. I'm like, holy shit. When you finally look at people differently today, you're going to see the Charles Manson followers and Charles Manson people and the squares. And that's why I'm saying, like, I've left all the Charles Manson cults out there and I've come to a square town like Canton, Ohio, right? Then I realized the drugs and all the Manson stuff has infiltrated the small towns. And I realized there is nothing different here in Canton, Ohio than in California. That's how the system got to the squares, is they interwove the death cult by making parents cult leaders. And so I will say this, many of us are channeling not only Charles Manson, many of you are not only channeling Charles Manson, but also his followers. I cannot even tell the difference between families today and the hippie people in the 1960s. It is uncanny and it is scary. Or they look like Cheech and Chong, right? And of course, all the crunchy mothers and grandmothers channeling Susan Atkins, microbially. Who is Susan Atkins? She was the one that killed and stabbed Sharon Tate. How is what Susan Atkins did any different than what parents do to their own children today, all for the sake for their government? Not only people are worshiping their government, but also self-proclaimed healers will sell you everything under the sun, and they take food away from you and sell you sexuality. That's why we're in a very scary time right now. Beautiful people who seem gentle, encouraging euthanasia through the herbs and the extracts and the surgeries. That's why it's scary for children and grandchildren. Parents need to wake up. Save your own children because they need it most from you. The sound of freedom was a distraction from your own foibles, parents. Let the government save the human trafficking victims because parents, you need to save yourself and potentially your own children. Because now you see how scary some women are, especially around their own kids. These mama bears need to really learn how to protect their own children because they don't. They give away their children to the system, to the allopathic and the holistic people. And they put it all over their Facebook. They are proud that they've given their kid away to the medical holistic system. Who needs to be saved? All the children in you, unless you wake up. Now, I understand as far as when you're asking a system to help you refeed or you feel like you don't have any control over your kids, so you're going to have to give your system away. Well, that's the thing. You know, once you realize how difficult it is to raise an actual balanced child in this society, maybe you don't encourage your girls to be breeders and your boys to be sperm donors. Maybe when you have a kid, you don't give them, circumcision. But you're going to have to work your ass off to raise that kid completely right in this society. And I don't think no parents now today are prepared for what they have to deal with. And they will be suffering because the predisposed issues are going to come up very quickly in this environment. And then, they're going to get treated and the kids can become weaker and weaker. And it may be questionable if they even survive 25 years old. It'll be questionable if they even survive their childhood. It'll be questionable if they survive their adulthood for the short time that they're around. And that's what these kids are facing nowadays. That's what these grandchildren are facing these nowadays. And so in the Manson world, a scalpel to a patient is like Manson follower to a Sharon Tate. It's like stabbing and cutting. It's still stabbing and cutting somebody. The only difference is Sharon Tate was not under any anesthesia. And her friends and family are under anesthesia, but they still suffer. And anyone going through the medical system, surgery system, are suffering astronomically. And people think it's still okay to get voluntary surgery. Not triage out there in the field from an accident. Like, yeah, if they have to pull out a fucking bumper out of my ass because I'm in an accident, fine, do it. And then I'll go home and replenish. I'll eat all the food and regrow whatever damage that was done. But I will not be using antibiotics or anything else. And yeah, I'll have to feel pain. Oh, believe me, it'll be painful. But it's necessary. Okay? And so people actually voluntarily, because they're scared into getting the heart surgery, they're scared into getting all this stuff. And the system is not prepared to help them strengthen their heart and their lungs and their liver and everything else. And so what they do, they just keep cutting into that person, keep cutting into them until there's nothing left. And so that's the microbial Manson way. And people do this to their own animals in the veterinary system. Oh, and they love their animals to death. That's the Manson way. And so they employed Charles Manson to be the Jesus of the holistic commune hippie world. The Fourth Awakening was intentional, obviously. That was the MK Ultra. Now look at your Facebook. Many people in California are subject to that, and many people in the Midwest, Northeast, and the South are subject to Charles Manson Jesus ways. Everybody in the whole world is. The Great Awakening, the Great Fourth Awakening, is putting many people to sleep. Because your religion, your politics, and your science dogmas are going to put you to sleep faster. Because look at all the religious people that have been attracted to my information. They can't handle the pain. They're into the organics. They're into all the herbs and extracts. They're into taking away food from their kids and themselves. They can't handle the pain again. They're in the medical system too, also in the hospital system. And so the religious folk are being taken down notch by notch by notch by notch until there's nothing left. So now I see who the system is targeting. The religious folk, even the squares, and even the hippie people. That's almost everybody. The Great Awakening, the Fourth Great Awakening, is putting many people to sleep. Now you see why religion can be very deadly. Who are they actually channeling? And so, time to read your history, humans. Stop reinventing the wheel. The system kept taking advantage of your beliefs, and they destroy you at the hands of the parents who are in deep belief. And ignorance is intentional. Because again, everyone's a cult leader. And nobody wants to evolve except for very few people who might have the ability to face their own pain. That's only a few people in my world. And nobody is putting their hands on anybody, right? We're not putting our hands on anybody. We're not employing strangers to tell people how to live their life. And I'm not advocating people take any remedy. And I don't advocate starvation or turning children into breeders and sperm donors for the system. I'm advocating you save yourself because you're important, okay? And so you can be about the Great Awakening. Okay, now you see why families today are deadly. I don't want a family. I'm not trying to be a cult leader using my child, and I don't want blind followers like children are to their parents. It's very hard to watch. That's the depopulation agenda through the family, the microbial Manson family. Are you wearing the hippie clothes reminiscent of the Manson family? Clones do exist as people keep copying fashion icons trying to uphold images to belong to a person, place, thing, religion, politics, and science dogmas. See, even the Jesus religious people wear the outfits that look like Charles Manson. They look like Jesus. They look like Cheech and Chong. They look like Charles Manson. It's crazy seeing the religious folk like reincarnate the hippie system. It's a trip to watch. So who is the system destroying? Plainly obvious. The system developed Manson family clones all over the world. That's why we're in a great reset. And I'm watching some of these religious people that, like these females that are really hot and gorgeous, and they sound like the breathy Susan Atkins. They sound breathy. It's crazy. They sound like if they could be, they sound like they would destroy someone out of love for whoever. It's crazy. And I've seen it in the religious world, through the J world, because I've had so many religious folks glom onto this information. And I've watched their Facebook, and I've seen how their vernacular, the way they speak, how they speak. And then I'm watching the hippies from the 1960s, and I don't see a difference between that religious person and that hippie from the 1960s. They're channeling Charles Manson followers. That's what's in the religion. That's why religion is scary. Remember, the religious revivals also happened in the 1960s. The Doobie Brothers are the evidence, as well as the Jesus cults, communes, and organic living, and then all the cannabis and the drugs. And so you watch these women that look just like the Manson followers. Skinny women, parting their hair in the middle, long hair, right? Or they're trying to look like somebody that's like a sex bomb. Oh yeah. So who is the system destroying? Plainly obvious. The system developed Manson family clones all over the world. That's why we're in a great reset. You can beat the system, but it's going to take work. They have weakened so many people, but you can become strong, and you have the time some of you do. And so I say, save yourself, but you see the agenda now. I'm not the enemy. It's not going to matter what I say for some of you because the train has already left the station. But you do have the chance to save yourself. Even if your kids don't survive, you could survive. And then one day in the future, when you're whole again, mom, you can have a kid and they will survive the environment. And so when I see people today, they look like clones of the 1960s. Many people look like Jesus today. The hair, the body structure, their religion. Some people even look like they're channeling Charles Manson because the aging process is so universal around cannabis and drugs, like watching so many Cheech and Chong people, all right? I see people who look like the Manson women, gorgeous, skinny, and very religious, and love you to death. It's creepy and it's uncanny. And so what were the core beliefs of the Manson family? Manson claimed that he was Jesus and believed the string of murders would help hasten the apocalyptic race war. His cult of about 100 followers were deeply engaged in drug use and included many naive young girls lured in to help carry out his mission. So yeah, these girls from the Midwest, naive young girls you see all over Facebook, how easy it is to go and speak fear into them. You see it in the chemtrails world, how they're saying, hey, watch my video, watch this. See, I'm going to get how many followers to go and do what, right? How many men out there, go look out there on Facebook, okay, promoting Faraday cages, cannabis, and remedies, and how many naive middle-class women are their followers, glomming onto their every word, Alex Jones, etc., etc., etc. How many of the men out there are promoting organic food and starvation, acting like Manson, no different than the dumpster diving that he did? The costumes are unmistakable. People love you until you cross them by questioning who they are channeling and why. They think they're saving the world with their cannabis and herbs and organic gardens. But all they're doing is acting out Charles Manson family at the microbial level. And again, the costumes are unmistakable. Hippie man, hippie chicks, they're telling you what their intention is. Are you clear enough to see it? If you're under the influence, you'll act like a Manson follower at the micro level. Save yourself. There is no money in destroying people really because you're destroying yourself. Now you understand why hippie men back in the 1960s looked like Jesus Christ. They were channeling Manson. Men today have shorter hair, acting like a guru and a savior. They're channeling the Manson way. And even though cannabis may be associated with Cheech and Chong in comedy, it's really not funny in reality. The suffering is astronomical. The 1960s was all about destroying people through the drugs, medicine, and saviorship, through religion, spirituality, and family. That's why people look like sex objects back then and even today. It hasn't even changed. And now it's in the hands, the death is in the hands of the mothers and the fathers. That's the depopulation agenda. Through the family, the microbial Manson family. How do you support women? Tell them they don't have to die someday. And having a kid doesn't make you a whole person. Support the wholeness of women. Don't turn them into breeders. They have a brain. They're not sex objects or someone to go and pimp out to get married because you don't want to take care of them, right? How do you support men? Don't turn them into sperm donors. Maybe avoid circumcision because it makes some very hypersexual, and help them release those demons of genetic diseases so they're not dropping seeds everywhere. But when you advocate your children to develop a family, you're turning the women into breeders and men into sperm donors, and then the suffering. And it's astronomical right now. How do you support LGBTQ and non-binaries? Tell them they don't have to model themselves after heterosexuals, and they don't have to die someday, and they deserve a long life like everybody else, and they don't have to be a breeder or a sperm donor. Everybody has a brain. Not everybody has to be a body to somebody else. Allow people to utilize their brains. Hypersexuality does not discriminate. And so then I'm saying having a billion kids does not make you an expert in raising kids or other people. Because look, you're still suffering. It's easier to fool parents than to convince them they've been fooled, right? It's easier to fool people than convince them that they were fooled. That's a quote, I think, by Albert Einstein or somebody else, I forget. Yep, this main world is all about the family, which has the intention to destroy the parents and capitalize on their child until that child is not useful anymore. The family today is pretty deadly because even some parents can't afford to have children physically and economically, and that kid is suffering, turning into adults who will suffer. Remember the Manson and the family, parents become cult leaders and the family becomes cult members. And now we have a repeat of the Manson family via the medical holistic energy healing surgical system. Even though Manson welcomed outsiders, but if you do not repeat the party line, the Manson family got rid of you. And they destroy people through, they thought were the enemy physically. Right, Sharon Tate? While people on Facebook hunt people spiritually and try to destroy them financially and defaming them. Today, outsiders are unwelcome, and the mother is the all-knowing person who loves her family to death. Never question the mama bear who is the epitome of the depopulation agenda, as she will refuse to change and never admit she was fooled. And the grandma support her this as well. The grandma are the biggest culprits because they are supposed wisdom of the family. The current Manson family. Just watch all the mothers out there. They will tell you and show you they know best, even if their kid does not survive or their kid is suffering from all the remedies and surgeries now or in the future. And when that child passes, they will blame someone or something. And so there are mothers out there with so many kids promoting pharmaceuticals and herbal remedies against specific viruses. And so their kids become the social capital as if they know better how to take care of people. The fact that you're suffering, parents, doesn't make you the expert. Repeating what the doctors did to you does not make you any better person knowing how to take care of people because it came from you, because you have a billion kids. Your kids are suffering or will be suffering in the future because this environment will not get any better. And then they have your predisposed issues, mom. So that's what a cult is. Big families who think they know everything. The Manson family was the first family the system developed for the families to model after during the Great Reset. Okay? Just look at your Facebook. Watch people act like the Manson women, all about love, under the influence, repeating the party line over and over and over again. The J World was never a cult but mainstream society made every family a cult, so it'd be easier to depopulate you when the time came to do that. You already bought into the remedies and the surgeries, okay? It's easy when people do not question everything, and then beautiful women make it harder for people to question stuff because men become weak around beautiful women. And all the drugs make it easier to control people. Look at what Manson did to his flock. LSD, amphetamines, and of course, all the cannabis. The Manson family, known among its members as the family, was a commune, a gang, a cult led by the criminal Charles Manson that was active in California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The group consisted of approximately 100 followers who lived in an unconventional lifestyle and frequently used psychoactive drugs like benzedrine amphetamines, as well as hallucinogens such as LSD and ayahuasca out there. Most were young women from middle-class backgrounds, many of whom were attracted by hippie culture and communal living, and then radicalized by Manson's teachings. So go look at all the different people out there who are promoting an activist stance on something, whether it's politics, religion, or science. Okay? So look at all the hippie chicks and mommy and me groups and the crunchy mothers. They act like Manson women. They love you until you cross them, and then it's a virtual Sharon Tate. Okay, so the squares even do that too today. All the squares who have their college degrees and they think they know everything because they have a college degree, they do the same shit. They're the all-knowing person. They're a cult member. They are a cult leader. When you have a degree, you become a cult leader because you think you know everything. And so then everyone that's in the college system is like a cult leader because they think they know everything. And they destroy people with their knowledge. And so then it's a virtual Sharon Tate. If you're not 100% sober, you become easily led. When you have the strength to face your own demons, nobody can take you to the other side purposely. You won't be afraid of climate change or food or even the government. And you won't feel the need to lead a bunch of people because you definitely have to lead yourself. And so becoming whole again takes a long time. And then you don't want everyone worshiping you or getting a hold of you because now you know what the world is. Many people are suffering. Many of them are predatory because love can also be predatory. People will hate you with love and love you with hate. And you will have more discernment when you realize how the system has compromised your hormones, turning into a Manson family cult member, using the FDA-approved drugs and remedies and surgeries. And so there are many predators out there who will hate you with love and love you with hate, okay? This is why the Great Reset. Many damaged humans out there are manipulating people out of existence. And many of them are grandmothers and mothers, and they're everywhere. They're next door to you. They're your friends, your family. They're everybody. That's why it's so hard to figure out where it is. Because it's everybody. They have been programmed and trained to destroy each other through love, through everything. And so the medical, holistic, surgical shortcuts in childhood will develop long cuts in the future for these kids who grow up eventually. Yes, parents have much to answer to. Now is the time for parents to finally change the way they respond to symptoms. If parents today do not change, it is questionable if those kids will survive. Or are we developing future serial killers when the kid becomes triggered? That's why we're in a surveillance society. And so again, look at your Facebook and look at all the mommy and me groups and all the crunchy mothers and all the pretty girls that are like, oh yeah, I don't, whatever. I'm not changing. I'm still going to do this because I got to look like I'm abiding by the laws and they want to be accepted by their friends and family, everybody. And so, yeah, and they're selling sex. And then you hope that kid doesn't turn into a serial killer. You hope that kid survives, but That's why the system is under a surveillance society, because this is what the system developed. And you get to watch it. You get to watch it. You're front row seat. Just look at your friends list and look at what they're doing. Now you see. So anyways, I'm done. But yeah, that was necessary. That was necessary. So, all right, bye.